Hello, dear listener. Before we begin, I wanted to let you know about Denver Bike Fest, which is coming up this Saturday, June 13th, from 3 to 9 p.m. at York Street Yards. If you're a listener of our show, you probably already know about Denver Bike Fest, but in case you didn't, it's just a day to celebrate bikes here in Denver. There's going to be live music, there's going to be food and drink, and there's going to be a ton of other people there who love bikes. I'm going to be there, Andy's going to be there, so come out, join us. It's put on by friend of the show, Emily Kleinfelter, and it's going to be a great time. So hope to see you there this Saturday, June 13th from 3 to 9 p.m. On with the show. Hello. I'm James Warren.
And I'm Andy Cushion.
And this is the Denver Urbanism Podcast, a podcast on all things city building in the so close but not quite championship city of Denver. That was so sad. Can you believe how much we screwed that up?
I mean, like, after probably one of the best seasons the Avs have ever had. And I was over the moon the entire season for the Nuggets. I was like, wow, it's suddenly coming together. Yeah. Jaden Pickett, what a winner. Just absolutely choked.
We had a great team with the Nuggets. We had the best teams with the Avs.
We've ever had.
By a lot.
Yeah.
And then to
losing
go
to Vegas. They don't even have winter in Vegas. It's just
crazy.
Awful.
They've got everything in Vegas. Well, this is going to be a short podcast. How do Denver's professional sports stadiums rank compared to others across the country? That is a big focus for today's episode.
It is. And thankfully, we don't have to do that much research because the very most urbanist stadium in Denver is absolutely Coors Field, and we won't be taking further questions on this time. Mm-hmm. And USA Today ranked it number 8 out of the 28 MLB stadiums. So that's the answer.
Yep. Thanks a lot, everybody. Really appreciate you tuning in, and follow us online for more.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, no, we're not actually going to do that. Whatever USA Today's reporter who was ranking them thought, he was not ranking them on urbanism, A, and B, this isn't about comparing to other cities. This is about ourselves, right? You know, like, how do each of the Denver stadiums compare to each other? So we have come up with some superlatives and some, close but not quite awards that we want to give to each of Denver's stadiums to really, truly, definitively rank them, including a soon-to-be future stadium.
Okay, well, let's start with Empower Field at Mile High, where our beautiful Broncos play. I'm going to give this the superlative worst named stadium. Empower Field at Mile High? What are you talking about? What do you mean at Mile High? That doesn't even make any sense. So that's worst named stadium in my opinion.
Well, I mean, my runner-up award here is literally the second place where you receive the baton for the Colfax Relay. That's what it is. It's literally second place.
It's pretty cool you get to run through the stadium on the Colfax Marathon. That's a fun... They really nailed it with that one.
That's not going to happen soon.
So tragic. Let's go into Coors Field. This is the best Denver stadium, for sure. Like, it's just like in the city, right? I mean, there's still probably too much parking behind it, but like the parking is behind it from most vantage points. It's really just great. And like, that's the reason I go to more Rockies games than any other sports team is just the stadium's so great.
There are more Rockies games than other sports teams that play here in Denver as well. But, point taken. And I agree. I also go to the Rockies more, probably the most urbanist stadium. My award for, the third most losses in MLB's modern era. It's actually a tie between the Rockies and I think Detroit. That is a big experience for us. And it's runner-up in terms of losses. I think a lot of us were rooting for them to have the worst losses ever. That would have been a fun superlative to give, and it wasn't.
What do you think about Ball Arena?
What do I think about Ball Arena? It's probably the gayest arena.
Now, I know that probably 80 to 90% of our listenership is gay, but like, break that one down for us.
Well, I went to the Sweat Tour when it was here, which was Charlie XCX and Troye Sivan. And I got to tell you, it was real gay at that arena.
Hell yeah.
And also, too, like, I don't know, like, where else can you go see, like, Selena Gomez and, all of the kind of, like, pop girlies that people are not as fond of anymore, unless you're one of the very special community that goes to those games.
Benefits of flyover country in a way. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give the runner-up here for Ball Arena, worst named stadium. We get it. It's a sports arena, and they have ball there. Okay? Sport, have ball. Don't call it Ball Arena. There's no other reason why they would call it that. I'm not even going to look into it. Dick's Sporting Goods Park. Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's the biggest boondoggle. That's the one. There was a really great like Denver Post series last year where before they had announced where this Broncos Stadium was going to go about like the economics of stadiums. And aside from like that thing that they tore down in Broomfield,
Sure.
it's just abundantly clear at this point. Dick's is just like the biggest boondoggle. Like nothing's really kind of happened there. It's not really like been a big boon for the economy in Commerce City, and that's that.
It's more of a doggle than a boon. Mine is related to this. This is the most likely stadium for me to think, man, I should get into soccer. And then Google where the stadium is and then think, maybe I won't get into soccer.
I have another very serious award, which is that it's the runner-up. It's the second best place in Colorado to hear fish.
Huh, interesting. No further questions. Except for, what's your word for the future National Women's Soccer League stadium?
I mean, it's got to be, without question, the most likely stadium to be a political talking point in a future failed Mike Johnston campaign for higher office.
It's true. I would also say this is going to be the stadium with the highest highway exposure, which is great. We love particles.
Superlative. Very superlative stuff.
Sound. Okay, we've given some amazing awards that I'm sure we will soon see plastered on the sides of these buildings for as long as they stand. But let's just talk a little bit about stadiums. Let's talk about what they mean in an urban context, in the Denver context, why we should care about them. Why is, even as a non-sports aficionado, why should you care about a stadium?
Well, like in actual terms, they're big. They matter. They take up a lot of space in the urban environment. And Denver is really a standout in a lot of ways. Like we are one of the smallest cities with this many professional sports teams. Yeah. And there are much bigger, much better sort of urbanistically cities like San Francisco, New York, that have their stadiums way the hell out in the suburbs. And that's a specific choice that constantly is being made in Denver, is that we don't want to do that.
Right.
We just kind of had a little lobbying mini fight, between the various cities and suburbs about where it was going to keep the Broncos. And it was considered largely by everybody involved a win that it stayed in Denver.
Yeah.
You can have an opinion about whether or not a new stadium was necessary, good, or blah, 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 the subsidies, the secret subsidies. You can call anything what you want. But the fact that it's staying in Denver, I think, is being considered by most people a big win. So, like, why? Are we right? And like New York and San Francisco are wrong? Like, it's not really about right or wrong. It's more about the effects that these things have. And they have a big effect on the city.
There's just a livability aspect to it, right? Like the times that I see most people use public transit and just like strangers, people who I wouldn't typically associate with riding public transit, is before games, right? I think that there's just something really great about, hanging out downtown and being able to walk to a sports game. That's super fun and livable. I was thinking actually a little bit about this because I visited San Diego. And San Diego, their airport is like probably the most valuable property on planet Earth. It is just like right on the water. It is just in the middle of the damn city. It's crazy to me, right? And we I think in the city smartly were like, nah, put the airport way outside the city. That does not improve our livability. People can still get there, but like, get it out of here. We don't want the loud airplanes. And like, we made a livability choice. And I think that like where you put your stadium is a livability choice.
I think that's actually a great analogy. It's not obvious to Americans who might have grown up in a suburb, but like in other countries, as we've probably all seen tweets that illustrate this at this point, stadiums are almost by definition in the city center. It's just like what happens. And, other countries like in England, where they have both Premier League and Champion League soccer, like the fact is that the football pitch is right in the center of town. It's a historic property. Everybody loves it. That's just like a natural way that people envision sports in other places. Yeah. But in America, because of sprawl and car culture, it has been we've turned that on its head. And it's only in the last maybe 30 years that the value of having a sports stadium downtown has been like more accepted at a political level, in municipal politics, at a sort of fan experience level. We have that commitment here. You had an interesting point about these are money-making exercises. There's a lot of money being made on professional sports. You go to the arena, you buy a ticket. Yeah. Somebody's getting paid quite a bit of money for that. But you had a point about kind of the value then that's coming into the community around them by keeping the sports arenas here in Denver.
So we have some pretty bad sports stadiums here. I think that like Ball Arena is like pretty bad from an urban viewpoint, surrounded by parking lots, not very easy to get to except for the light rail. There's a lot of reasons why we shouldn't like it. But like the whole idea over the past few years here has been that's all going to change. They're going to fill that all in with housing and retail, and it's going to be a great place to both live, to shop, to go to the game after you have a nice time out on the town. The other one is Bronco Stadium, right? Or Empower Field at Mile High. It's surrounded by ugly parking lots, right? It is this kind of like older style of building stadiums, but that's all going to change, right? With this new development at Burnham Yards, they're going to not just surround it with parking lots. There is going to be parking, but like it's mostly going to be centered on like retail, office, and commercial space surrounding this stadium. And so there's this genuine large shift happening. And my thought was like, okay, so what's happening here? And I think that there's like two ways that you can understand what's happening here. You can understand it as like a real, like the city is starting to prioritize what communities want the most. And you can see that in, I think, the advent of the Community Benefits Agreement. The Community Benefits Agreement in Denver only existed in the past 20 years. The very first one was signed actually at the Gates Rubber Factory. It started in 2003, was signed in 2006, so 20 years ago. And coincidentally, right, that is where our newest soccer stadium is going to go. But the advent of this is like newer than the old stadiums. And so like there was a time when we said, yeah, you can just build whatever. And like they built stuff that was really terrible for the community. And now the city is taking their role as like a decider of how land is used more seriously. And they're saying, look, if you're going to build in our city, if you're going to be a part of this city, you have to deliver something really cool and really incredible for the community. So there's this kind of one community side. There's this other side, which is that like private equity is like taking over more and more things now and is doing a good job of juicing more value out of everything that they own. Right. And so like back in the day, there was just a bunch of like hockey players who became hockey sports teams owners who were like, yeah, we do hockey and then people come and they pay tickets to go to a hockey game. And that's our business. They come and they watch hockey and we can have a big parking lot because then people will park there and they'll come inside and they'll watch hockey. And private equity got involved and said, whoa. Parking is a stupid use of all that land. You could have housing, you could have retail, you could be juicing out every cent. And so like, I think, no matter how we get here, these are both good outcomes, but like, I don't know which one of these is the primary driving force.
And I guess to me, if I can give you just an example of both. So like the first example of the Community Benefits Agreement. So in the first sort of phase of Ball Arena's development, there's going to be two separate like nonprofit arts spaces that are going to be provided. They won't say, but it's probably Youth on Record that is like going to go in like the corner of another sort of performance arena, like a 4,000 seat like performance venue that they're going to build. And then also sort of more generic, could be some different nonprofit that ends up in there, an art space. That's a community benefit agreement. People said, great, you're going to like build all this stuff and make a lot of money, fill up your hotel rooms, things like that. It's also a benefit, I think, not in the community benefits agreement, but it's a benefit to have additional ways to cross Spear Boulevard for people who are not driving. Like that is going to be a huge boon for connectivity from Union Station, for connectivity for people who live in the adjoining neighborhoods. So that's like one positive thing from there. And then the other positive that you were just describing, I think is like, look at McGregor Square.
Yeah.
McGregor Square was built purely by the Montfort sort of corporation because they wanted to make more money and they had that space, they owned it, and they could sort of draw it up in their books to perfectly complement their experience, what they hoped fans would experience and the money that they wanted to make off of fans going to Coors Field. So like we have both models. They're both better. They're both better than they would have been, right? It's also kind of funny, though, too, because I guess there's something to be said. There's a sadness in some ways that Mile High is going to go, because that's actually where the baseball, the baseball and football stadium used to be one stadium in Denver.
You can go see the original home plate out in the parking lot in Lot J.
You can go see the original home plate out in the parking lot in Lot J.
Yeah, of like where the original, like the Grizzlies used to play.
What a weird coincidence. That was actually the second track on my sophomore album. That's so crazy to me. Anyhow,
get the hell out of here.
But so like that was where the original basketball stadium was as well. So everything used to be there. We had like one sports complex. That's the model that continues to exist in like Kansas City or in Boston, for instance, where what they decided is, oh, okay, well, like we'll just put all of the sports arenas like way the heck out there in some place that's far away from, where transit goes and where people live. And it'll be convenient because fans will know how to get there and there'll be tons of parking and it'll be there. It's a positive thing that we have decided that we want to keep the sports downtown, but also not just like have only Sportsville. I guess, like the developing of something else around them allows for distinct identities, like Ballpark as a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. That's what we call that part of downtown and sort of 5 Points, Ballpark. They now have like a general improvement district because they want to be a real neighborhood that has a better quality of life for the people that live there. And that's really attributable to the fact that rather than keep all of the sports arenas over where Mile High is, they said, oh, well, what if we built like some new, cool, fancy, nicer experience for fans at Coors Field?
And I think this is one of the reasons that even if you're not a sports fan, if, when people bring up sports, you go, oh, sports ball, that you should actually care about like arenas and what they mean for our city, right? You don't need to be a big convention goer to understand that having a convention center downtown is awesome. You don't need to be an aficionado of the fine arts to think that having a fine arts center downtown is great, right? And you don't have to be a sports fan to think that having a sports center downtown is awesome, right? These are things that like make an area more vibrant, make it more interesting, and give purpose for like what's happening in our city. And how we execute on all of that is extremely important. And it seems as though the city's doing a much better job these days of handling that than they have in old times.
Well, and also to your point, the kind of conventioneering example is very good. We're the biggest city for like 1,500 miles around. It's one of the defining characteristics of living here. And so we talked about this in a previous episode, like the hospital complexes that we have here are not just for ourselves. They're for like kids with cancer in like Western Kansas, right? That kid with cancer in Western Kansas, when he gets that Make-A-Wish, he's sitting he's sitting courtside at Ball Arena. That's where that's sports true. Fan that's goes. True. And so like, I think that there's something kind of cool. And that's another part of this is that I have got cousins in Jackson Hole. My great aunt lives there and my cousin lives there and all that. When they come to football games, they come to Denver.
Yeah.
And that's like really far away. Jackson's not close. So I think that is a cool experience as well, is that, again, it's not just that we've committed to having a better fan experience and a more connected neighborhood and downtown revitalization. I mean, like when the Avs are doing well, you get like huge foot traffic numbers through Union Station and over to the Ball Arena. Like, I mean, Downtown Denver Partnership will tell you themselves that like having professional sports downtown is good for downtown business. Right. But in a general sense, we're going to continue to attract the Broncos fans from Wyoming. We're going to continue to attract the basketball fans from New Mexico. And when they come, it's cool that they're coming here and not Centennial.
Yeah. We built up cities, throughout history because we want to do fun, cool stuff together, right? That's one of the main reasons that we like continue to live together, is that like it's just good. It's a good time to live together. And like we talked about this before, like perhaps building everything up around the offices over the past, 100 years has not been a great choice. But like we have this opportunity to continue to inspect what do we want to build around. And I think that like sports stadiums is a massive piece of that puzzle that, can bring in people from far and away, but it can also really uplift the experience of being an urbanite.
What future superlative would you want to give to some of the new stadiums that are going to be built?
Closest to my house, that's not too close, but is like really kind of nice. Okay, I'll think of something else.
I think, this is a sappy question, but like, I think it's actually really cool to get to see that they're building these new stadiums, like in our time here. Like the influence of urbanism on the outcome for these stadiums is actually very meaningful at this exact moment in time. Like you, the urbanist listening, have the ability to influence the outcome for these different arenas in a big way right now. And so like the fact that, our mayor, who is not the biggest cyclist, was able to say with a straight face that the new National Women's Soccer League stadium is going to be like an extremely bikeable place. And that's true, even though it's like on one side is a highway, but it'll be in a really bikeable spot because it's right off the South Platte River. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, we have the ability to influence that outcome and say, like, we also think that we not just should have a economic driver in the neighborhood, but a driver of connectivity, recreation, active transportation. Hey, that's fun. Like, I like to think that could be the superlative we give to the National Women's Soccer League Stadium, is the most bikeable stadium in Denver. And they should want that award.
Of course. And, urbanist ideas are now popular enough that when we construct a neighborhood from scratch, we say, how we should build it? Mixed use, walkable, bikeable, access to transit. Those are the things that we want. And now the issue is just, how do we get that for the rest of our neighborhoods too?
You should get involved. That's my pitch to you as a listener, even if you're not that into sports. And if you're not that into sports, you should consider maybe just getting a little into sports.
Just follow the scores when the games are happening. Don't watch the games. Just follow the scores. That's what I do. It's a blast. It's serious. That's what I do.
Is that what you do? Yeah. I don't know. I just go to the bar by my house and I make friends with the bartender when it's not going well for the game. That's what I do.
That's crazy.
And now we've really reached the end of the podcast, dear listener. Thanks for listening. The Denver Urbanism Podcast is a production of longtime blog Denver Infill and sister blog Denver Urbanism. We look forward to hearing what you think online at denverurbanism.com. I would say it's the biggest boondoggle.
The deep cut for only me.
And Robin Kanich will get that joke too.